Once you pulled up here, I was like, holy shit, I was here 20 years ago.
There was this tip that came to me, was in Mexico, in this small fishing village, Progreso, Mexico.
Let me see. Oh, it looks just like him.
Doesn't it?
Oh my God.
If he walked into someplace today, I would hope that I'd be able to look and go, yeah, there he is.
This is True Crime Arizona, Finding Robert Fisher, in Arizona's Family Originals podcast.
So Juan, how do you feel about spelunking for the first time?
Let's see how it goes. I've never done this before and kind of nervous, but I think we'll be fine. I'll be able to fit. There's a small crack, so I'll be able to go in and out and see what we can get.
Yeah.
I'm excited and nervous at the same time.
We were heading up Highway 87, out of Phoenix, and back up to the woods in Young. Sergio and I brought one of our other photographers with us, Juan Magana. We were meeting up with a group in Payson that would come with us to where Robert Fisher's car was found. And then we were going underground into caves.
Briana, how do you feel about it?
I'm not nervous at all. I'm excited. I like adventures like this. I love the fact that we're actually going to go into these caves that are kind of related to this case and can actually see what's there ourselves. We're told about it, but the fact that we're actually going to be boots on the ground, doing this, seeing it with our own eyes, our own cameras, is a totally new experience that I'm super excited for.
Sergio and I are pretty much opposite personalities in general, which is actually why we work so well together. I usually dive headfirst into things with no fear and hope for the best. It can be a good and bad thing. Sergio is much more thoughtful.
So I'm not gonna lie, I'm a little nervous about the spelunking. Squeezing into those little tight areas for a larger guy like me is a little scary.
Like claustrophobic?
I'm not really claustrophobic, but it's definitely giving me pause that I might get stuck. I don't want to look like Winnie the Pooh.
Part of the reason this day is so big for the investigation is because for years now, we've heard that the Indian reservation, the Native American land that is so close to where Robert's car was found, was never searched. And we're going to be with Ray Keeler, who has a research permit to be on that land, so we can go search with him. And that's something that's just not even been done in this law enforcement investigation.
We stopped at the Burger King in Payson to meet up with the group.
Hi, you must be Shannon?
Yep. Hi,
I'm
Briana.
Ray.
Nice to meet you.
I'm
Ray.
Hi.
Sergio.
Be a lot of names,
Nice
I know.
to meet you.
Hi there.
How's it going, man?
Hi, Briana. Nice to meet you.
There were 7 of us embarking on this journey. First, we met up with TJ Duran, who you heard from in episode 1. He's one of the original Scottsdale PD detectives on the Fisher case, who was up in the woods when Fisher's car was found and searched for him. He hasn't been back up to the area since, so he wanted to come with us for this part of our investigation. I met 2 experienced cave spelunkers through a Facebook group who agreed to join us and basically be there for safety and help, Shanna and Jaron. And then there was Ray Keeler, who served as an underground rescue coordinator for the Maricopa County Sheriff's Office and headed up the cave searches for Robert Fisher back in 2001 and for years after. There's no way we could have done this part of our investigation without him. He brought maps with confidential entrances only some know about that aren't available to the public, and he has the research permit to be on native land.
The plan for today is to drive from here in Payson up to the top of the rim to Young Road, south about 10 miles. We're going to stop and turn off the road onto an unmarked 2-track road, go in about a mile and stop where the vehicle was found within 100 feet, maybe 200 feet. Then we'll go through that and I'll start bringing out various documentation as to what was going there. We're going to drive, after that discussion's done, we're going to drive over towards the reservation line. At that point, I'm taking my research permit from the White Mountain Apache tribe, so we're legal. And then we're going to walk over to the entrance passing to 41 Club and see other entrances along the way.
41 Club is the name of the massive cave we'd be searching.
So let's go where Fisher's car was found and
sorry.
let's stop
You're
there.
You're correct. And
Yeah, you remember, obviously.
ready?
Yeah.
Ray led the caravan of cars into the pines, where we eventually stopped near what looked like a sinkhole.
The road we drove in on, all of that water that comes down that drainage, and where we passed on it comes down this drainage and drops underground here.
And that's why the sink is here.
This is why this thing is here.
Turns out that sink was here in 2001. It's just bigger now, and was the major geographical marker for where Fisher's forerunner was found.
It was myself, Detective Kirkham, Sergeant Don Bellendier.
For TJ, being here brought back memories from 2001.
So you recognize all of that, right?
Yes, I recognize this whole area. But at first it was weird. When we first turned off Young Road and came up here, I actually thought you were going too far. But that's because everything here looks kind of, I mean...
It all looks similar.
Yeah, I mean, this is the rim.
Right.
You know, but once you pulled up here, I was like, holy shit, I was here,
Uh-huh.
20 years ago.
Does it look the same?
We were here for 4 or 5 days,
Then
you
the weather
know.
turned down.
Now, were you search and rescue then?
They didn't call us. I was MCSO underground coordinator, and they wouldn't, Gila County wouldn't ask for mutual aid. They actually said, well, we know where the caves are, and they don't.
TJ and Ray start to realize their involvement over 20 years ago intersected.
Gila County was here.
Right.
Coconino County was here because I worked with
Right.
a deputy from Gila. I worked with a deputy with Coconino.
Uh-huh.
DPS flew over and called us and said, hey, we've got the truck.
Right.
And then we're watching it. And of course, no offense, Briana, Serjio, Juan, media just, and it was all over. Detective Kirkham and I got in the Black Hawk. And we flew up here and they landed us, I think we were a mile down the road where we had command center set up. And I'm telling you, within a half hour getting set up, every media outlet was swarming us. And the Coconino Sheriff, and I believe the Gila County Sheriff, finally stood up and said, okay, enough is enough. You're all going to be behind that point over there.
TJ actually inspected the Forerunner himself that day it was found.
And that truck was clean. It was like really,
Wiped down, clean?
really, just, it was pristine. So obviously when he left, he cleaned it down.
Yeah.
And I think we found his ball cap in there. He had a ball cap that was in, and of course the dog. He had the little dingo dog with him. And it had the porcupine sticking out of its nostrils.
In episode 1, TJ mentions a call he gets from a woman who was up and young. He starts telling all of us about it and why he believes it's so significant to searches in the area.
When I got back Monday, a couple called me. They were driving down Young Road where we came down. And probably 3 miles from here, they're driving down the Young Road, and this woman's telling me her husband's driving, and this woman is telling me over the telephone Monday, there was a man walking up the road, and I believe he was on the outer edge. So when they drive, he's right here. She's the passenger. And she told me, she says, I'm telling you that was Robert Fisher.
And that
As a
was
matter
the
of fact,
Monday after you were there.
the Monday or Tuesday after.
How many days between was that?
I can't remember correctly, but I think it was either the day of the truck being found or the day before the truck being found, because the guy that called us in was down here. I think he was here overnight.
Camping?
I think so. He was in a van. So he was down in this direction here. I know that everybody always talks about the reservation. Is it possible? Absolutely. He could have walked up another mile or two past this couple and then cut over and went into the reservation. Absolutely. With the reservation and everything that people have talked about with the reservation, I don't know, it's tough.
Here's where the caves come in.
If he was in the area and not in 41 Club, then lo and behold, and he was walking up the road after you left 4 or 5 days later, he had a room that was unlooked at.
So your theory is he could have sat in there for a few days, wait till everybody leaves the forest,
Right.
and then gets out and leaves.
Right.
I mean, there's several places he could have walked from here
Right.
Oh, yeah.
that lead to X, Y, and Z.
Exactly.
Right. If he was doing it himself, there would be access to vehicles.
That's why I never
not-
believed he came up here and killed himself, because this woman, now, he could have done it later,
Yeah.
but this woman was adamant. She says, I believe that was Robert Fisher that walked by our car as we were driving down Young Road. So he was walking up towards 260.
What makes you think that that girl's tip, that she saw him, is credible and true?
Her inflection when she was talking to me, because I got annoyed, because I was like what Ray was saying, you know, the logs over the cave. I got annoyed and I thought, why didn't you call us the day you saw him?
Right.
Which people do, it happens all the time. And I could tell by her response from me that she was, you know, sorry and she should have called. Just the way she responded to me, her inflection in her voice, I believed her. If he walked into someplace today, I would hope that I'd be able to look and go,
Yeah.
there he is.
Even with age progression.
Yeah,
Right.
unless he's had work done, which I don't believe he has. You look at his photographs, he's got a unique eyebrow and nose.
To play devil's advocate here, TJ, those pictures we saw, you thought it was him in Mexico. We thought it was him in Mexico.
Correct.
Was it?
But he had that narrow look. Look at the pictures. He has that narrow eyebrows and that narrow look at the pictures. And that's why I thought, I looked at Hugh and I said, holy cow, I think he got him. Well, actually, I said, holy we got him.
While some detectives worked on the investigation in and around Young, international tips were pouring in.
Let's talk about the big Mexico tip
Yeah.
you remember.
The tip TJ was referencing from Mexico is one Detective Hugh Lockerbie received while he was the lead on the case.
There was this tip that came to me regarding Fisher was in Mexico in this small fishing village or smaller village called Progreso, Mexico, which is basically kind of due south from New Orleans. I would attribute it to be maybe something similar to Rocky Point, you know, but maybe not even as Americanized as that, but definitely a very popular place to hang out, to drink in the local cantinas, to, you know, kind of, it's on the ocean, it's warm and beautiful there. We got this tip and there was a picture of this individual with different people that took pictures with him because they just met this guy, and he's holding a beer, he's holding a cigarette, he's on a motorcycle, and the individual just had sunglasses on, I think a baseball hat, and it looked extremely close to Fisher. I mean, it was as close to a look-alike that I've seen.
When you looked at that picture, though, for the first time,
I mean, my heart was like, oh my God, this could really be him. I thought, I think we finally got him.
The public had never seen these pictures of this man before. Hugh pulled them out of what he calls his emergency Robert Fisher file, a file of some of the most important tips and information involved in the case he keeps with him on the go, just in case he needs it.
let me see. Oh, it looks just like him.
Doesn't it?
Oh my God. Sergio, look at these. It looks just like him.
That does look just like him.
Look at this, next to the picture of him. That is so weird.
You'd see why I would be.
Yes. Look at that.
I mean, we went down to the dimples,
Yes.
to the forehead.
And I know it's hard because he has the visor and the
Yeah.
sunglasses on, but
It just feeds into this mystic.
Even the face, the smile.
Yeah.
What struck you the most when you saw these pictures in terms of physical attributes?
The forehead, the head, and the nose.
Yeah, the nose is pretty spot on too. The ears too.
Yeah.
Look at that ear.
Yeah. That smirk. I think the smirk really just, that arrogant, pompous, I'm getting away with it. I'm gonna just take photos and do, I mean,
With a bunch of girls.
Yeah.
When I interviewed Robert Fisher's friend, Herb Greenbeck, I brought these pictures with me.
I just want to show you and see what you think. So one of the tips that came in was this man who was posing with people in Mexico.
Oh my God. But man, that face, you gotta be kidding me.
Was it possible Robert was just living the beach life down there? So confident he was taking pictures with women and tourists?
Maybe he's, rolling the dice now because he feels so comfortable now that he doesn't have to hide. Maybe he's just hiding in plain sight.
Detectives immediately start trying to track down this man, and they start by talking to the women who submitted the pictures in the first place, a mom and daughter on vacation.
We figured out who these people were that produced a tip, that were in the pictures, interviewed them. They sent an agent out and they figured out who this guy was and interviewed him, fingerprinted him, looked at him. It wasn't Fisher.
They were able to actually find that man and interview him.
I'm pretty sure he had a job down there doing some sort of menial work, but it wasn't uncommon to have a lot of Americans down there living too. I mean, it's kind of a common thing, you want to live in the sunshine on the beach. One of the things that, I remember thinking to myself, it's just kind of an odd thing for Fisher to do. I mean, you've been off the grid for 11, 12, 13 years, running, being on the run. Why would you take a photo with some Americans? Why would you expose yourself? You run a huge risk.
I know you heard my reaction earlier when Hugh showed me the pictures, but if you had told me this guy was confirmed to be Robert Fisher, I would have believed that 100%. It really did look like him, at least to me and Sergio, who have seen the same pictures of Robert Fisher for years. But looking at the pictures closer, Herb could see differences.
Well, the first one's a yes, but then now that I see the side of him, no. It's too much chest, too much body. Robert's, we used to say a pigeon chest, kind of a smaller guy.
One thing I've noticed is Robert Fisher, these pictures that are out there that everyone knows, he's kind of that basic, nondescript looking man.
Yes.
There's nothing about him that is such a feature that stands out, that's so memorable, to where I feel like it would be even harder to pinpoint all these tips because he could kind of look like anybody.
Absolutely. That's the challenge that we face. Is this person that is so general looking, so nondescript, like you had said. He's assimilated himself into society in some way or another, and he's living in a community now, and he is not putting off any red flags. He has become to be known as whatever his name is that he's using.
I find it interesting you talk about him as if he's still alive.
Oh, absolutely. I wouldn't be sitting here if I didn't think he was still alive, Briana. I would not be wasting my time if I had evidence or if we had indication that he's deceased.
You don't think there's any chance he's dead?
Not right now, no. Not at all. Everyone asks me all the time, oh, he's dead, Hugh. You're wasting your time. No, I'm not. I'm not wasting my time at all.
For every international tip that was coming in, there were dozens more coming in from Arizona, not far from where his car was found. Through my research, I came across the name of a couple I knew absolutely nothing about, nor how they were involved in the Robert Fisher investigation. Jesse and David Klingbeil.
You live not in the city when you're bottle feeding a sheep in your living room.
The couple lives at the Rockin' X Ranch, a 27-acre property in northeast Arizona, about an hour outside Young.
Get the waters?
Yep. We began our own company. We do guided rock climbing and canyoneering and also offer river rafting tours. We are in the middle of the Sierra Ancha Wilderness.
It really did feel like we were in the middle of the forest. The Klingbeils Rockinex Ranch has everything from goats to sheep to horses to dogs, even macaw parrots. The ranch is surprisingly calm, full of things you don't normally associate with Arizona: ponds, flower meadows, and streams.
Out here you can expect almost any type of predator. There's mountain lions, bears, we have coatimundi, bobcats. There's a lot of stuff out here. So you have to be aware of your surroundings and who your neighbors are.
What she said there struck me because it somewhat foreshadowed how she became involved in the Robert Fisher case and investigation.
When I say Robert Fisher, what goes through your mind?
Ew. I am more afraid of running into Robert Fisher or somebody like that than I am a mountain lion.
How did you become a part of the story?
I became a part of the story more involved when I went to visit a friend of mine that was working at the Cherry Creek store, and she has kids my kids' ages, and we were just sitting there chilling, and a little old man came in.
The Cherry Creek store is a cross between a mini mart and a grocery store in Young.
It's the center of town. Cute, quaint little store.
Even though it's in the middle of town, it's still not surrounded by a lot of businesses. It's just a very rural area. It's one of the places Jessie will drive to here and there to pick up things. She thinks the run-in she's about to explain with this man at the store happened in 2007 or 2008.
He wasn't much taller than me, and he was hauling an oxygen tank, and he had a really young ranch hand kid with him, maybe 15. He was really, really young. They walked around and did their shopping, and then they came up to pay, and right on the desk, on the counter, right in front was the Robert Fisher flyer, and there were the one with the 3 photos.
Mm-hmm. The wanted poster?
Yeah, so he looked at that, and he immediately just started, his hands would start shaking, and he just started tapping at it, and he started asking, "Why do you have my friend's picture? Why is he here? What did he do? He didn't do anything. Why is he here?" So my friend would just start asking him questions, you know this person? Well, this person's wanted for really, really bad things, where can we find your friend? So he got even more aggressive and started saying his friend never did any of these things that they're saying, and he lives with him and he loves him and he's like his boy. And then he told the kid, "Get me out of here, let's go, let's go." And he hustled to try to get himself out while the boy hustled to try to pay his bill. And that was the last we heard of the little man. We'd lived in Young for so many years prior to that already, and nobody, not even those that had lived there before us, recognized that old man's description. He said he was at a ranch nearby, so I talked to a couple other ranchers, but they didn't recognize the old man either.
He didn't say what ranch, he just said a ranch.
Yeah, he said a ranch.
Did that make you believe him more or less?
Oh, absolutely. I believed that if he really thought that that was Robert Fisher, or that was his friend, that was at his ranch, that was his picture, whoever it is that's at his ranch made an impact in his life.
The experience was bizarre enough for Jessie and her friend to call and report it to the FBI.
Did you guys think to follow the man to try to ask more questions?
No, we both had our children. I wasn't gonna put my kids in the car to go chase after that lead.
Do you remember what they were driving?
It was a beat up old Ford truck with a rack on the back, which is like a dime a dozen out here.
Let's assume that maybe it was Robert. How many ranches are around the Young area?
Oh, I have no idea.
A
There's a lot.
is it possible he could be on a ranch and the detectives never get to it?
Sure. It's so wide out here. It's so wide open, so Wild West. Sure, anything could happen, especially if he had a plan.
Sergio and I went to the Cherry Creek store ourselves. You can't miss it. There's a big sign on the side of the road. The store itself is very small. We talked to the clerk at the front. She knew about Robert Fisher and the case, but didn't want to talk about it on the record. As we expected, Robert Fisher's picture and wanted poster is no longer up at the front. An FBI agent ended up coming out to interview Jesse about the tip, but there just wasn't a whole lot to go off of.
He asked me more description of the old man, also the sound of his voice. I had to recall that, and the boy.
It's been more than a decade since that incident, but that encounter with the man resonated with Jesse.
I believed him. There was no reason not to. He was super upset.
There's never been confirmation of who that man in the Cherry Creek store was and who the man was or is living on his ranch. After episode 1 of this season dropped, I immediately got several new tips from people, even other public safety officials, with information or things they remember that I might want to look into. I'm still going through some of them, and others I've sent to detectives who have followed up and ruled them out. But many of them continued to revolve around northeast Arizona, not far from where Robert's car was found. That's why it was so important we go back to that exact spot with retired Detective TJ Duran and the rest of the crew who'd be spelunking with us later that day.
Wow.
TJ walked down a dirt hill to be by himself. Being back where he did some of his most important investigative work over 20 years ago was a bit surreal for him.
All right, TJ, obviously there's some things that are going through your mind right now. You wanted to get over here first. Why?
It just brings back a lot of memories. A lot of work. Wow. Jeez. Wow, it almost seems like it looks like yesterday when we were up here. Wow. Incredible. I mean, everything just fell into line looking for this man. And unfortunately, we didn't find him. Wow.
We gather back up as a group to get ready to start walking toward the big cave. TJ recalls a conversation he had with Ranger Bob at the time of the search.
There was rumors going around that there was like this little neighborhood where people were living, and they believed that Robert Fisher was part of that. So, I mean, we were going through sifting through so much stuff. One thing Ranger Bob kept an eye on is when he drove around the forest where people had cabins, make sure nobody was breaking in. So at that time period, even a month or two afterwards, there were no reported burglaries or people reporting that somebody suspicious is on their property. So that's something else to think about too. My belief was he walked out, especially after I talked to that couple that was driving on the Young Road. He could have walked south, he could have walked north, he could have walked west of us. We interviewed probably, I mean, there's so many people we interviewed, and most of them were his friends, his outdoors friends. Hunter, fisherman,
Right.
hiker.
Right.
Never did spelunking
Never
come up.
caved. Yeah.
Never anything ever come up about him going into caves. There's so many possibilities, you know, and to be honest with you, if he shot himself in this cave,
We would have found him.
yeah.
Okay, so we know TJ thinks Robert Fisher left the area, but others, including other investigators, aren't so sure, which makes escaping into caves, at least at one point or another, a very real possibility.
Your turn.
Good?
Yeah, I'm just putting back on my shoe.
We all strapped on our spelunking gear to get ready. Knee and elbow pads, gloves, and backpacks ready to go.
Safety hand line, compass. Yes, compasses work underground.
Do you want us to put our helmets on before we get there?
No, it's hot. We got a little bit of a walk, so we're going to carry the helmet.
We walked through the fence that borders the reservation land. Shanna asked TJ about it.
So, was the fence here back in 2001 when this took place?
Yes, because when they did the searching, Gila County and Coconino Search and Rescue, when they searched, they stopped at that fence because it was reservation.
So he could have theoretically just hopped over the fence or gone through whatever gate existed at the time and hit over here for a couple of days.
Correct.
Then.
Yes.
You can fall anywhere. You need permission from the White Mountain Apache tribe to go in. I have a research permit.
I was excited. I didn't really know what to expect, but I was so eager to see what we would find once we got to the cave. Just before we got there, I asked Ray a question.
So, any of these caves, if it doesn't take long to just go in and no one out here can hear you?
Depends on how far you're in. All you need to do is get around 2 different turns.
2 turns. That's the threshold?
Yes.
With no cell phone service, we were about to vanish, with no way to communicate with anyone above ground.
If people come up here and they go underground, they've literally dropped off the face of the earth.
Maybe that's exactly what Robert Fisher did too. All the pictures we reference in this podcast can be found on azfamily.com. Just search Brianna's Journal. Coming up on True Crime Arizona, Finding Robert Fisher.
I feel like the Canada tip is the one that so many people still have questions about.
And he physically resembled Robert Fisher, height and weight and appearance. That was by far the most promising tip that we received.
So these are all the people that have been in the cave since 2000, up until last year.
Just for clarification, that was written before the incident.
It might have been.
So we don't know when that was written.
Right.
Is it plausible Robert Fisher could have survived in this cave
for more than a week? This passage isn't small, and it was not on their map. So if Robert Fisher was part of the puzzle and wanted to get out and heard them coming, he would just quietly go down into the cave and farther in without having any trouble.
True Crime Arizona, the podcast, is hosted by me, Brianna Whitney, and produced by Sergio Hernandez. This episode edited by Hunter V. Norris. It's a production of Arizona's Family, 3TV, CBS 5, and azfamily.com in Phoenix, Arizona.
This is True Crime Arizona, Finding Robert Fisher, an Arizona's Family Originals podcast.